Choices. There was an Alice Cooper concert that night, and nobody knew this about me, but I loved Alice Cooper. I absolutely loved everything about that guy. He was everything I wanted to be. He was confident, he was self-expressive, he just spoke exactly what he wanted to say, and he was very popular and very successful. But nobody knew this. See, I'd get in my 1964 blue Chevy Impala, you know, all the windows down, it had those giant 8-track tapes, and I put this 8-track loaded into my 8-track player, and I had those big speakers in the back. They were just hooked up. They were for a house, but I had them in the back of my car, and I would drive alone, and as soon as I got away from the farm, I would unroll all those windows, and I'd crank it up to full volume, and Alice Cooper and I would just be rocking out. I would be singing like there was no tomorrow, and I loved it. And then I got home, and then I was quiet again. Didn't speak up much. So Alice Cooper was coming to town on my 18th birthday, and he's got those hit songs like I'm 18. I mean, what a better way to spend your 18th birthday? School's out for summer, $1 Billion Baby, all the great ones. No More Mr. Nice Guy. I wanted to go, but I didn't say anything. And also, on April 12th, that same night, was the Dairy Princess contest of Martin County, Minnesota. And it's kind of a given that if you are the daughter of a dairy farmer, that you will run for the Dairy Princess contest. And the thing is, I hated milk. I mean, we got it straight from the cow, and it was that really thick, awful, you know, sometimes there'd even be chunks floating around in there. And it was supposed to be so good for you, but it made me sick. I didn't like it, and I hated public speaking. I was so terrified, and the judges would be asking questions. So I didn't say anything. I just was dutiful daughter, and I got on my yellow prom dress. And it's the kind of dress that looks really flowing, but it's incredibly uncomfortable and tight. And so I got in my yellow prom dress while my friends were getting ready to go to the concert. And it had these like big puffy sleeves, the kind of see-through sleeves, and they got really tight at the elbow, and you had to zip it up like really super tight all the way from the elbow to the wrist. And I was walking around in this prom dress going to an event that I did not want to go to, and these judges started to ask me questions. They asked me like, well, what kind of cows does your dad have? And I was so scared of public speaking anyway. It was kind of fear that kind of paralyzes you. And I remember just staring at these guys, and they were, come on, come on, come on. And finally he goes, well, are they Guernseys or are they Holsteins? Are they black and white? And they were sort of laughing at me. But all I knew were these cows were the most gentle, benign, curious creatures. And even though I didn't speak up much at the dinner table, I would go out and talk for hours to these cows, and they had all the time in the world for me. They would listen to all my woes, they would listen to all of my stories, and they had patience galore. That's what I knew about cows, but they didn't want to know that. And I didn't say anything. And then they'd ask things like, well, how many gallons of milk does your dad get? And I didn't know. I mean, I'd heard things around town like we're going to milk them for all they're worth, you know, and things like that, but I didn't know specifically how many gallons. So the thing is, I lost the Dairy Princess contest, which is kind of a good thing because if you win, you have to ride in these parades when it's really hot, in these long evening gowns, and tout the benefits of milk, which I wasn't into anyway. And plus, they carve your head out of a 90-pound block of butter. You just chisel out your head. I wasn't really into that anyway, but, you know, there's a certain amount of, you want to win. You want to feel important. You want to feel pretty and all of those things. That didn't happen, and the judges were kind of, you know, like they got a laugh off me. I know that. And my friends also got a laugh because the person that I lost to was pretty chunky. You know, the princess was, and she had teeth that weren't real straight. They were kind of like... So anyway, I got razzed from my friends, and I got razzed from the judges, and as low as my self-respect was at that time, it got even lower after that Dairy Princess contest.
I mean, you've got me on the edge. What happened after the contest?
What happened after the contest? Well, After the contest, I graduated from high school, I went off to college, and I kept thinking if I just got a little further away, that maybe I would be able to speak with my true voice. So I moved from Minnesota out to Washington State, and then from Washington State, I moved to Indonesia, and I lived there, and I saw things over there too. I would see in the backyard, these Indonesians had dog fights on a regular basis. It was their form of entertainment. And I still couldn't find my voice to speak up and say what I really wanted to say. There was poverty, there was pollution, there were all kinds of things that to me just seemed so overwhelming that I still didn't speak up. And it wasn't until I moved back to Washington State and then I started taking public speaking skills training, and I started to really take a look at my own beliefs. Like, do I believe what I hear? Like, I always heard she's a shy one, she doesn't speak up much. And I thought, actually I do like to speak up, but I was just really afraid of people judging what I had to say, and I didn't want to be an outcast. So I did learn to, I would go out in the woods and I would just speak to the trees. I would practice speaking to the trees, just like I had done with the cows. And that's when I found my true voice really came out. And the more I started speaking across the United States doing these public seminars that I did, I started to find that the more I just got vulnerable and the more I really spoke what I really felt, that's when I was most effective, and that's when I found my freedom. So it's kind of full circle back to Alice Cooper. It's like to really be free, I didn't need to move away. What I needed to do was really find my own voice.
Wow, that's great. Excellent story. Excellent story. So could you tell us again, well, how specifically did you get over your fear?
Well, there's still a certain amount of fear today when I voice my truth, because I think it is really in our DNA that we want to belong to society. We want to belong to the mainstream, what everyone is thinking, what are they doing right now. To stick your neck out, to say what you really feel, you can feel like, look at Martin Luther King, look at Gandhi, look at John F. Kennedy, look at these people who actually spoke what they wanted to say. They're not living now, so no wonder we get a little bit afraid when we speak up with what our truth really is. But how I got over the basic fear was just a lot of practice, and I focused on freedom. I focused on, what am I going to do? Am I going to stay in my shell? Am I going to hold myself back the rest of my life? Or am I just going to, go for it and do it? And the first couple of times I was really scared, but it's just practice and really getting clear on what matters to you.